In this tutorial, we are going to learn how to create Ubuntu virtual machine, and we are going to access this virtual machine via PuTTY. We are also going to allow port 80 open so that we can be able to access the Nginx default web page. That means we are also going to install the Nginx server on our virtual machine, on the Ubuntu virtual machine. On the portal, so we are creating this by portal. On the portal, you can see virtual machines. I can also search it in the resources search bar. I will go ahead and click on create virtual machine and click on create and select virtual machine, this first option, because we don't want the preset configuration and we don't want VMs and related module solution kind of machine. So I'll click on this. Okay, we are now presented to fill out the details of our virtual machine. As you can see, the first one here is a subscription because this resource have to be in a subscription, and we have not created any resource group for this, so we'll go ahead and create new. I will call this resource group this RG and hit OK. On the virtual machine name, this is the name we are going to use and identify our virtual machine. So it is different from the username of the virtual machine, which is part of the admin login details that we are going to, that's the virtual machine user login detail that we're going to set up down this line. So the name of the virtual machine, I will call it this Ubuntu VM. And I will leave region as UK South. Availability zone, I will leave it as default. And on the image, I will leave Ubuntu server as default. And there are other images here, both for Windows, Red Hat, and the rest of it. But for the purpose of this course, we want to create Ubuntu virtual machine. Okay, a Linux-based virtual machine Ubuntu server. Okay, so I will select this. And if I scroll down, I will leave everything as default. And administrator account, I will leave it as SSH public key. And then the username by default, it gives us a username Azure user. And we just leave everything as default. And the key pair name is going to be, it's generated automatically. It's picked from the name of our VM, then added underscore key. So we'll leave it as is. And public inbound port, yeah, because we are going to allow, because we're going to connect to Nginx default web page. So we are going to leave open port 80. And then, of course, we are going to we'll leave port 22 open so that we can connect via PuTTY, because if we don't leave this port 22 open, we cannot SSH into the Ubuntu virtual machine. I'll click on next, which is the key, and I will scroll down and leave everything as default. It looks fine to me. And for networking, you can see for virtual network, it's already created one for us, or one virtual network is going to be created alongside this resource, because this virtual machine, Ubuntu virtual machine, needs to be on a virtual network. And everything looks fine. A public IP address is coming along with it. And I can see that the port 80 is selected and SSH is also selected on port 22. I will go next. Looks good by default. Next, I will leave as default as well. And I don't have script to put in the custom data for now, and also there is no script for user data as well. So I will go to next tag. Tag is optional, so I will leave as is for now, and then review and create. So I'll go ahead, finally hit create, and when I hit create, I see a pop-up to download private key. I'm going to download this just for now. And this is saved in my download because we're going to use it to connect through our PuTTY. We give the resource a little time to deploy, and then we come back to it. Okay, deployment is completed. And if I click on these deployment details, I would see other resources created along, which is the VNet. We pointed it out earlier, a public IP address, which we're going to use to access the machine publicly from PuTTY as well. So we also see network security group, which is the place that our rules for ports 80 and 22 are set, and also of course the network interface card and the virtual machine itself. So let's go to resource. And then this resource is now created. Next thing is to access this resource via PuTTY. That means you have to have PuTTY installed, and also you have to have PuTTY installed. I'm going to explain it down the line as we go into PuTTY. So for now, I'll click on it to see options there and connect. So the options we have is to connect via Azure CLI from this portal. And another option is the native SSH. So for now, I will leave as is, but I'm going to use this public IP address for our PuTTY connection, and also be mindful of our username, which is azureuser. So let's head to PuTTY. Onto our download, you would see that our key is in .pem. So PuTTY itself does not understand the extension .pem. PuTTY understands only .ppk. So we need to convert this .pem to .ppk using the PuTTY. So prerequisite is to have PuTTY and also to have PuTTY. Okay. So let's go on and convert first, then before connecting via PuTTY. Open your PuTTY from your computer. So I've opened my PuTTY key generator. So I will click on load to locate the .pem file that we have in our downloads. I will go to download, and if you come to download, you will not see any file related to .ppk. So you have to actually click on this, select all files, and then click on the .pem file and click open. And when this pops up, you just say okay. And then our whole aim is to convert this .pem to .ppk. So next thing we're going to do is to save private key, and I'll say yes, and then give it a name, Ubuntu key. So it's going to be saved as .ppk. I'll click on save, and the location is saving is in our download as well. Okay, I'll click on save, and that's it. It has been saved. Next, we have to open PuTTY and then connect. So on this side of things, by default, port 22 is there and SSH is selected. I will get the IP address of the Ubuntu machine and put it here in place of the host name. And this is the IP address. Put it here in place of the host name. And then next we need to load our .ppk file. I will come to SSH, click on SSH, and then under auth, I'll click on auth, and then I will see option to browse and select the Ubuntu key that we converted to .ppk and click on open. So in some cases, you may see two options here, GSS API and credentials. So in that case, you just select credentials so that you can see the option to browse and upload. Because if you don't do it, you will not be able to upload just by clicking the AUTH. So from here, I will click open, and it's asking for connection, telling us about a new connection. I will click on accept, and I want to log in as the username of our Ubuntu machine, which is azureuser, and I will hit enter. And when it prompts this, and now we are logged in. Next thing I would love for us to accomplish is to install default Nginx web server and then access it on port 80. Okay. So first, we are going to update our repo and issue this command sudo apt-get update, and I put the -y flag so that I don't have to type yes. I'll hit enter, give it a little time to update. And next is to install the default Nginx web page. I will input this command sudo apt-get-y install Nginx and hit enter. So if this installs successfully, we should be able to access Nginx default web page on our browser using the public IP address of the Ubuntu virtual machine. So let's head back to the browser and see if we can access the default web page with the public IP address. So here on the portal, I will copy the public IP address and go on a new tab and paste it, hit enter. So we are not able to access it because this is HTTPS. So port 80 is supposed to run on HTTP. So I'll remove this S and make sure that you're not doing this on HTTPS because it's port 80. So I'll remove this and then reload it again. There we go. So we are able to create Ubuntu virtual machine. We give it a name, give it a username, and downloaded a PEM file. We use PuTTY to connect to it, but before we connected via PuTTY, we converted that PEM file to .ppk with PuTTY keygen, so that because PuTTY only recognized .ppk, and then we went to PuTTY, impute the public IP address of the virtual machine, and make sure that port 22 is on there. And then we go to SSH, we went to auth, select auth, browse our.ppk, upload, and then open. And then input our username, updated the virtual machine, installed Nginx web page, default web page, and then we are able to access it on the browser to see Linux machine in action. Thank you.